Welcome to the Impactful Entrepreneur Show with Adrienne Hill, a place for online business industry expertise and thought leadership, where you can build the skills, structure, and systems you need to thrive in business and have a lasting impact in your industry. Let's do this. Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Today, I am here with the lovely Brynn Lang. She's a networking and business building genius. You guys are in for a treat today. From motherhood to millionaire status, she's the queen of balancing home and hustle and helping others do the same. Known for her real talk and focused online business building strategies, her skill set is multiplying successful mompreneurs across the globe. She's an international speaker, equipping high-level network marketing teams to turn up their badass business strategy and make a difference online and at home. So when you and your team are ready to accelerate, Brynn is your next best step. And I love her topic because focus and intentionality is definitely a strategy you need in your business. And especially if you can take that strategy, find something that works for you and systematize it, you're on fire. You can do absolutely anything. So I'm super excited to dig in with Brynn, and welcome, Brynn. We're so excited to have you with us.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here, and whoop, whoop. I had to throw the whoop, whoop in there because that's just kind of my jam.
Yeah, I love it. I love
the
energy. I love the energy. Great. So tell us a little bit of how did you get this name? Why is it that people call you the queen of home and hustle? And tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I'm super excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me, Adrienne. It's just like an honor to be able to be here and to get to speak with you guys. And this is like my favorite thing to talk about. Anybody that knows me, it's like that whole thing, don't tell it. Like the only rule of Fight Club is don't talk about Fight Club. You know how when you join CrossFit and it's the only thing anybody talks about, you're in a room with a CrossFitter and it's all they talk about, is CrossFit. It's kind of how I am when it comes to intentionality and consistency and focus, because for me, it was the biggest pivotal moment in, literally being able to have the lifestyle that I had always wanted. And so I have actually been an entrepreneur now for almost 8 years. It's crazy how fast it goes by, right? I was a personal trainer as an adult, and my husband and I owned restaurants. At the time, we only had one. And I literally worked every day from 5 o'clock in the morning until 8 o'clock at night. I had a 5-year-old son that I was dragging in and out of the gym all day. My husband worked. People who think that being a brick and mortar business owner is freedom is that's no, let's just say no. He was there all day, every day, morning, noon, night. And so we never saw each other. We never had family time. And so I'm in this season of my life and I'm so exhausted. I'm so overwhelmed. There's no family time. There's no time for my marriage. And literally we would get to the end of the month and we never had enough money. Right. And I think that a lot of people can relate with being in that space. And so I personally thought that the industry that I'm in, which is network marketing, was the dumbest thing on the planet at this point in my life. I literally thought people are dumb. All I knew was, people losing money, paying money to get in, no success. That was what I had always heard about it. And so I literally, because I was a personal trainer and a lot of people respected, what my advice on health and fitness and all these things, I had everybody and their mama trying to pitch me their network marketing products. And I was like, nah, right. But the right person on the right day said the right thing. And it got to me. I mean, I remember my friend walking into my gym and looking at me with this huge grin on his face. And he was like, holy crap, dude, I just bought socks without checking my bank account. And I was like, oh, literally the week before, I was standing in Target, staring at a pair of shoes for my then 5-year-old, which we all know how fast they grow out of freaking shoes, and asking myself if I could make them stretch one more week because I couldn't afford them. And so he said that, and I was like, you know what? Maybe I'm being a giant douchebag and I should actually look into doing something differently because what I'm doing right now isn't really working. And so I jumped into the world of network marketing. And I think that this is how most people start. I didn't want anything big. I had no idea what it could be. I just wanted to be able to buy freaking socks. I wanted to be able to get those shoes for my kid. And I sucked. The one thing that I say to people all the time is we all start at suck. I had no idea what I was doing. The people I joined had no idea what they were doing. It took me 6 months to sign on my first business partner, but slowly I started to make a little bit of extra cash. And at the end of the month, like, I was like, oh my gosh, like I could get my nails done. Right. And so I started to realize the power of literally working from this thing right here, and I could do it anywhere. And so 6 months in, my vision changes. And I realized like, maybe I could make something bigger out of this. Maybe I really can truly have that family time. Maybe one day I could take my husband out of the restaurant. Like maybe one day we might have a beach mansion, in Florida. Like I started like thinking these things. I'm like, maybe, right? And so I just dove in and I learned, and I failed a lot, right? I fell flat on my face so many times, but I just kept picking up my big girl britches and learning from my mistakes and moving forward. And slowly but surely I built into a 6-figure business. Well, at this point in my life, I'm like 4 years into the process, and I am literally on the phone 24/7. Like 3-way calls, Zoom meetings, in people's homes at night, traveling on the weekend, actually working probably 10 times more than I was when I was a personal trainer. And my dream of having that family time just kind of pushed to the side, right? And so I remember the exact day that everything changed for me. My kid was home for summer. I was on my like 3rd 3-way call of the day. I'm pacing around my house. I'm like getting frustrated because this woman won't stop talking. And I'm already late for my next call. And my kid just keeps tapping on me. He just keeps tapping on me. Mommy, 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 mommy. He wants to show me this drawing that he's drawing. And I finally just snap. I turn to my kid and I look at him and I say, River, stop bothering me. Your mommy is working. And my kid literally fell on the floor, like bawling, crying, like tears streaming down his face. And he looked at me and he said, Mommy, you don't even love me anymore. You never pay attention to me. And it was like the worst feeling I've ever felt in my life.
Like knife right in the heart, right?
I mean, the worst. And I looked down at my phone. I hung it up. I picked my kid up and I just went and I laid in the bed with him and just held him while he was sobbing. And I was like, I'm done. I quit. Like, I can't do this. It is not worth it. And later that night, I told my husband what had happened. And I was like, I can't do it. Like, I'm just going to go back. I'm going to get a regular job, right? Like, I'm done. And he looked at me and he said, honey, you are not made for that. He said, you need to realize that it's the vehicle that you have, and it's the way that you're doing it that is creating this. And I truly believe that if you really want to, you can change everything. And I woke up the next morning and I made a decision, and I decided it was time to get my itch together. And I was going to learn how to be able to build a business, but not sacrifice what mattered to me most any longer. And over the next 3.5, 4 years, I've created that. And I'll tell you, I'm not ashamed to say it. I live the life, man. I've got it down to where, I work, a few hours a day. I don't work at night. I don't work the weekends. I hustle when I need to, but at the same time, I've gotten so intentional with all areas of my life, like that I get to have both. I get to have my cake and eat it too now.
I love that. Well, I love that story for so many reasons. So for those of you watching, first of all, how many of you started your business, whatever your business is, right? Because you just had one tiny little goal, right? And it started as something so tiny, from like, well, maybe I can get the products for free, or maybe I can get socks or shoes without having to worry about it. Or I just want an extra $500 a month, and it grew and it grew and it grew, right? But the other part I love about your story is, even when you were in brick and mortar businesses and you had a traditional job, but also parallel to when you were kind of that rising star with your network marketing business, they both have this common thread of like constant hustle and burnout. Hustle, burnout, hustle, burnout. So for those of you watching who, the reason you're here, right? The reason you're here at this event is because you want to strategize, you want to systematize, you want to reduce the burnout. If Brynn can do it, you can do it, right? And she has mastered the art of being intentional to minimize the hustle, to minimize the burnout, to minimize all those painful, awful moments. So if you're sitting in that space, take comfort. It is possible to get out of it. That's why we're here together. And so that's why I'm so excited to dig into this with you. So tell us a little bit about the beginning of that journey when you were realizing, okay, I'm living in a place of hustle and burnout to the point that even my poor child feels like I don't even love him because I'm so busy, right? Knife in the heart moment. Oh my word.
I hate sharing that story, but I know I need to share that story because it just kills me to relive it every time.
I think we've all had moments like that in our businesses. And I think that's why we're here right now. So later, right, there'll be a live Q&A, you guys, later when we have that live Q&A. If you've had one of those heartbreaking moments in your business that led you to finally seek out a better way, be sure to join us there because you're not alone. And we're all going to recover together from this. So no, I think the interesting part of this that I would love to dig into a little bit.
Yeah.
When you're in that place of hustle and burnout, and you know, right, somewhere between that hustle and burnout and this amazing place of intentionality and systematizing your business and getting it to a well-oiled machine, that beginning process is almost the hardest part. Like, how did you start to identify the places that you could make changes versus could not? And some of the new methods, like what was that very beginning like?
Yeah.
Like, as your husband said, like, I think you could redo this thing. Right? How did you even start?
Well, I mean, as with everything, it starts with a choice, right? Like I have this whole like linear, here's how you become successful, right? Like number one, you have to make the decision. Like I had to make the decision that I was going to change it. And change is hard, right? Like literally we live and breathe off of our habits and our behaviors. And I actually read last week, I'm reading a book by Joe Dispenza, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. And literally by the time we're in our mid 30s, we live 95% of our life, like subconsciously. It's like, because we do the same things every day. We get up and we get out of bed the same way. We brush our teeth the same way. We take a shower the same way. We drive to work the same way, right? So all of those things, they can just be done without any thought. Like your brain and your body just do them. And how many of you have driven to work before and you got there and you forgot you drove? Because that's your brain subconsciously, doing that for you. And so making that decision, I had to decide that it was time to be very, very aware. And what most people lack is awareness. I had to be very, very aware of everything that I was doing, of my habits, my behaviors. I had to literally like see myself from outside of myself in everything that I was doing every day. So that was the first step, right? And then once you make a decision, you have to commit to it. Right. And this right here is the hardest part for most people. It's why like more than 50% of marriages end in divorce, because if you go into something, even with the slight thought in your brain that there is an out, right? If it doesn't work, I'll do something else. Or, if I get married and, there's always divorce, well, you're going to get divorced, right? Because it's hard. Building a business is hard. Being married is hard, right? Changing your habits and your behaviors is hard. So you have to commit to that decision that you are going to change, right? Which I find the only time that can be a little bit easier is when something really big happens, like what happened to me with my kid. Like it was like this moment, you see people do this with their health, right? Like they go to the doctor and the doctor's like, well, you're going to die in like a year if you don't get your crap together. Right. So I had to make the decision and then I had to commit to it. And I had to understand that I needed to be super aware. So if you're listening, I want you to write that down. Like awareness is so important because if you're living 95% of your day subconsciously, you are not living in awareness, right? You're going through your day and you're just going through the motions. And that's what I was doing. And so I had to realize that I couldn't do that anymore. And so once I had the awareness, like I sat down, I got a notebook out And I just started looking at my life, right? Like I challenged myself for 3 days to sit down and write down every little thing that I was doing. Like literally, I wrote down when I sat on the toilet, right? Like I wrote down every little thing that I did. And so once I had that awareness of those 3 days, like I didn't change anything for 3 days. I wanted to really see what my life was and what my business looked like. Then I could start looking at all the things that I was doing that weren't pouring into the 4 things that mattered to me most. So I want you to think like, what are the things in your life that matter to you most? So mine are my faith, my family, my business, and my health. Those 4 things. And so I looked at my list and I said, okay, what in these things that I'm doing every day is not feeding and growing me in these 4 areas? Those are the things I eliminated first, right? So once I realized what's important to me, and I really had awareness of what my day looked like, I started to say, how can I get super intentional with my time to make sure I'm continuing to feed into myself and grow in myself in all of these 4 areas and not go into that overwhelm and burnout cycle. So I started creating the habit of sitting down on Sunday nights and going through my week. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And let me just tell you, this gave me massive anxiety. I was not an organized person. I did not like to plan. Like it was like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to take the time to do this. But I knew, once again, the awareness part of me knew that if I didn't get my crap together, I wasn't going to be able to build what I wanted to build. So once I could sit down on Sunday nights, and the first thing I would do is I would go through my whole week and I would pencil in the things that I had to get done. Right? I got to take my kid to school, right? I got to do the dentist appointments, the doctor's appointments, and all the things that we have to do in our normal life, right? If you have a job, like I penciled all of that in. Then from there, I asked myself, okay, when I look at these 4 things that matter to me most, like how can I make sure that I fit each of these things into my day intentionally? Because here's the thing that I want you guys to understand. Quality over quantity is always going to serve you better. So your family does not need you to pay attention to them 24/7. I have a 12-year-old. He's almost 13. He doesn't want me to pay attention to him 24/7. He's like, leave me the freak alone. Right. Like, but we get ourselves in this guilt cycle of where if we work too much on our business, we feel guilty for not pouring into our family. We spend too much time with our family and then we feel guilty for not pouring enough time into our business. Right. So I had to start asking myself, like, how could I quality over quantity with these different areas in my life? And so I started scheduling in those things. So for my faith, I made sure that every single morning before I ever pick up my phone, before I take my kid to school, right? Like I was going to have my time to do my Bible study. That was what I needed to do. And I scheduled it into my schedule. And guess what? I had to wake up a little bit earlier. Tough titty said the big fat kitty. I could lose a little bit of sleep to make sure that I poured into my faith for the day, right? And then I'm like, okay, so what's next? My family. Where can I have intentional time in my day with my kid, with my spouse, and as a family? And so I look, okay, every day, I'm not going to be on my phone when I take my kid to school. Like we're going to have that time. We're going to eat breakfast. I'm going to get them to school. We're going to have time in the car, which by the way, if you don't have teenagers yet, like when you're sitting side by side, it's literally the best time because you're not looking face to face. They'll tell you a lot more. I did the same thing after school. Like I give him an hour after school, whether we're doing his chores or I'm helping him with his homework or we're just sitting and talking. Like he knows that that time is set aside for him. It's eye to eye contact. I'm not on this, right? Every day I go to lunch with my husband. That's our spouse time. Like every day he leaves work, I leave the house, we meet for lunch, whether it's just 30 minutes, no phones allowed, right? Every day, 6:30 is family dinner time. Sometimes my family hates it because they're like, gosh, mom, do we have to eat dinner right at 6:30? Yes, because I have it scheduled into my schedule so that you get my one-on-one attention, right? Every day before bed, my kid, he comes, he sits in bed with me. We talk, we got 10 to 20 minutes. Sometimes that turns into an hour. It just depends. And then for my health, I just make sure I get 15 minutes of movement in every day. I schedule it in. I schedule it in. It doesn't have to be a lot, but I am making sure I'm pouring into my health. Guess what? After I put all of that into my schedule, now I can see everywhere in my schedule where I can actually work my business with intentionality. Everybody's happy. My kid gets his uninterrupted time. My spouse gets his uninterrupted time. we have our family time. I've poured into my faith. I've poured into my health. And now I have all this time where now I can schedule in my business activities. And it grew organically from there. The key in the first place was having that awareness of where I was wasting so much time, and I could change things to where I was growing every day and pouring into the things that mattered to me most.
I love that. That's so helpful to hear that rundown, because I think so very few people are aware of where they're actually spending their time.
Yes.
And like one little trick, you can look at your battery usage on your phone and it'll show you like all the apps and things that you're on. And I know like some people are like, yeah, but the whole reason I do an hour of Candy Crush a day is because I'm so mentally overwhelmed. It's the only way that I can like give my brain a break, right? From like constant, but at the same time, right? At the same time, one thing I love about your story, when you're present with your son, you're present with your son. You're not multitasking on your phone.
Nope.
You're not, oh, let me quick take this phone call. You're present. Because what I see happen so much, and I'm sure you see this all the time, is that guilt that you described. So many people have that. When you're working on your business, you feel guilty you're not with your family. And when you're with your family, you're guilty that you're not working on your business. And so tons of people try to multitask.
Oh, man.
It's like, yeah, mommy's right here. I'm right here, but you're multitasking on your phone.
Oh, it's the worst. And then
they
you're
know
just telling them that they're not important. Literally.
Yes.
Like I can picture myself standing in the kitchen with my phone in my hand, stirring dinner. At the same time, I'm trying to help my kid do his homework. My husband's coming in the door. He's asking what's for dinner. Did we get the laundry done? The freaking smoke alarm's going off because I'm trying to cook dinner and do homework. And that's people's normal life. It's because they try to do everything at one time. But if you take the time to get organized every week and you write in all those things, everything has a space in your life and everything gets intentional attention. Like most people go to bed at night and they're just like, oh, I'm so tired. I'm so burnt out. And then they're like but they didn't ever get anything really done because they were trying to do 10 things at once, which means everything got about 50% or less of their attention.
Yes. And I saw that so much. I started doing exactly what you're doing, which is so fascinating, because in the beginning, when I wasn't giving my full attention to my family during family time, right? They knew I was multitasking. What would happen is that I would be in my office trying to work on my business, and they would constant interruptions. Mom, I have a question. Mom, I need this. Or like, hey, honey, what's for dinner? Or did you do that yet? And when I started giving 100% like focused, being present time to my family in the evenings, they started leaving me alone
all the time
in my business.
Because they know, they're like, I have my time. That's her time. Like they know if that door is closed and I'm in my office, like I'm working. They know that they will get their time.
If you're watching this and one of your issues with building your business is that your family isn't respecting your business time, it might be because you're trying to multitask and it doesn't work.
Well, and I would like to say this too, because I think it's really important, because I know that there's going to be people on here that are in different stages of their life, right? Like I understand if you're at home and you have toddlers or you have a baby, like that's different. Like you can't be like, hey, toddler, go entertain yourself. Don't climb up the stairs, by the way.
You get my time at 6 p.m.
You know what I'm saying?
Toddler.
Like, don't stick your finger in that light socket. I'll see you in about 2 hours. Like, I get that. And so if that's you and you're in that space of your life, here's what I want you to understand. Do not have a scarcity mindset, have an abundant mindset. Most people live in a place of scarcity all the time. And they think, well, I'm not successful yet, so I can't afford to have somebody watch my kids, right? Like I guarantee you, if you could hire somebody to sit with your kid, whether it's a teenager, a niece, a nephew, like a mother's morning out, if you could pay somebody to sit with your kids for an hour or two a day, right? That's it. Hour. Yeah. And literally that would not, the amount of money that you would make if you were intentional with your time when you used it would way over whatever the word I'm looking for, than what you're actually, than what you're actually paying for to have that person watch your kids. And here's what that tells your kids too, because I think this is another important conversation, is a lot of people were like, well, don't you worry about your kids seeing you work? I'm like, no, what do you think I want to teach my kid? Right? I want to teach him it's important to work hard. It's important to have goals. It's important to strive to achieve them. Those things are like, God made us that way, to want to do those things. And so I want him to see that I work hard. I want him to see those things. But the whole key is he still gets that quality intentional time with me. So if you're paying somebody to watch your kids for an hour or two a day so that you can get your stuff done, imagine how much different that is than sitting with your toddlers and they want you to get on the floor with them and they want you to play with them. But instead you're sitting here on your phone because you're trying to do all of it at one time. If you pay somebody to sit with your toddlers for a couple of hours or an hour, then you've done your business activities, you've got it done. Now you can actually go sit down and sit with your kid. And you showed them it's important. It is important to learn how to strive for something, because I don't know about you guys, but I want my kid to be driven. I want him to be successful in whatever he loves in life.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. So true. And it's really interesting how that comes together of, if you got a job, you would hire someone to watch your kids so you could go work that job. But it's interesting, the minute it's an online based business, somehow we don't give ourselves permission to do that.
It's the guilt. We as women, like, I don't know about you, but like, I've really realized, especially over the last few years, that it is like literally conditioned into us to feel guilty for wanting something for us or to strive for something for us. Like it's this innate feeling that we have, especially as we become mothers, like, because regardless of what people say, it in our brain, it's our job as the mom to make sure that the kids are taken care of and the dishes are done and the laundry's done or whatever. Like, that's just the way we think, right? So we put that guilt on ourselves. And I think it's an important conversation, because you shouldn't have to feel guilty if you hire somebody to do those things for you, or God forbid, you ask your spouse to take the kids to school or put the kids to bed or do the laundry. Like, I have a wonderful woman that cleans my house weekly, which is amazing. But my husband knows his job is the laundry. Like, if the laundry ain't done, like, that's on him. He gonna be in trouble, right? And for a lot of years, I was scared to ask my husband to do the laundry, not because he wouldn't volunteer to do it. It just was me putting that on me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So, well, and I think we've uncovered, I wanted to ask you about clues for the audience, clues that they might be in a place where they're in hustle and burnout and they need to get more intentional and focused. And so we talked about a couple, right? Awareness being one, you have to be aware. Trying to multitask is probably a big red flag sign that you might need to be more intentional and focused. Are there any other red flags that you commonly see that if the audience is experiencing this, they might know that, like, okay, I need to put this at the top of my focus area because I think I'm in that place? Any other?
It's super easy. If you don't wake up every morning and go, man, I'm excited to work my business. Man, I'm excited for my life. You're probably in a place of burnout. Because I don't care if you live in a 1-bedroom apartment and all you can afford is ramen. Like, money does not create happiness, right? Like, if you are in a place of where you are like fulfilled in the areas that matter to you most, which mine might be different than yours, my faith, my family, my business, my health, right? When we feel unfulfilled in the things that matter to us, we will always feel burnt out, frustrated, and not like, if you wake up in the morning and you don't want to get out of bed, it's because you feel unfulfilled in the areas that matter to you most. And a lot of people want to play the blame game, and they want to blame their past, or they want to blame their circumstances, or they want to blame their marriage, or, things that are going on outside of them in their environment. But at the end of the day, the only person that can change those things is you. And it goes back to being super aware, making that choice, and committing to changing those habits, changing those behaviors. And it is hard. And I always tell people, embrace the suck, right? Like, I had this conversation with one of my friends. Like, I recently just lost 10 pounds again, the vanity pounds. Us as women, we know we fluctuate a little bit. Like, I'll get my habits in order, and like, I won't be snacking at night, and I'll make sure that I'm doing the things I need to be doing, and I'll be where I like to be. Well, I'll get lax on those habits, and I'll start to realize I'm going into the cabin and I'm grabbing a Reese's every night, or drinking that extra glass of wine, right? And then you have this awareness, you go, oh, well, now I realize why I gained 10 pounds, right? Well, then you have to think, okay, well, what do I need to do to get the result that I want? Well, I probably shouldn't be drinking that extra glass of wine, and I probably shouldn't be reaching my hand into the Reese's jar, right? But that doesn't mean it's easy to stop doing it once you're used to doing it. Like, you have to be aware of that's what you're doing. Then you have to make the decision to change that habit. And then you have to commit to it. Because the first couple of weeks, they kind of suck. Like, I'll be like sitting in the bed, like cold, chill, like, can I get some Reese's straight in my veins? Right? Like, it's all I can think about. I'm like salivating, but if I can embrace the suck and understand it's going to be hard while I change this habit, right? Then I have the expectation that it's going to suck. So when it does start sucking, I won't quit, right? Instead of going, I'm just going to do it and it's going to be easy. But no, it's never easy to change a habit. It's never easy to change a behavior. You have to embrace the suck, manage your expectations, make the decision and commit to it.
Right. I mean, and it's so true, because at the end of the day, you have to pick your hard.
Yes.
You want your hard to be that your business never grows because you're constantly in a state of burnout and overwhelm? Or do you want to pick the hard of forming new habits?
Yep.
Pick your hard.
Yep.
Yeah.
Truth. But here's another thing too. And because this is important for people to understand, I feel that there are more people that don't succeed out of fear of success because it's the unknown, as opposed to the fear of failure, which is very comfortable, because we all know what it feels like to fail. We've been failing since we first started to try to walk, right? Like, failure is comfortable. And a lot of people get stuck in their regular day-to-day habits because they're comfortable, and they'd rather be comfortably miserable than try something new that's scary and is unknown. So a lot of people are more so scared of the unknown than the comfort of misery. So you have to ask yourself, right? How miserable am I? Right? How willing am I to step outside of my comfort zone and try something new in order to create what I think I want?
Yeah. And that's so true. And I heard this amazing analogy about comfort zones that, like, I just think is so helpful. The minute I heard it this way, I never wanted to be in my comfort zone ever again. Okay.
Yeah.
So imagine like a tomato growing on a vine, right? When it's green, meaning new, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's growing. The minute it hits its peak ripeness, it's rotting.
Ooh.
So when you're green, you're growing. When you're ripe, you're rotting. And ripeness is being in your comfort zone.
Very good. Yeah.
So the minute I thought of it that way, I was like, I want to be green forever. I don't ever want to.
I want to rot.
I want to be rotting.
I want to rot. Give me some Botox, man. That ain't happening.
So sometimes, like, that really allowed me to flip my thinking. So hopefully someone in the audience, maybe that hit you right where it needed to hit you.
Really, really good. Yeah.
So I know one of the things you mentioned in your journey to becoming more focused and intentional was working with your spouse. And I know a lot of people, even if they clean up their habits, they may or may not have a supportive spouse, or in their mind, their spouse isn't supportive, but maybe they haven't actually asked for what they need. So do you have any tips around how to elicit support from your spouse?
Yeah, this is really good because, obviously there are going to be people that are unsupportive, and we all know, I run across them every day, where, people have spouses that are unsupportive. And, I know that that's a really hard place to be in. But what I find more often than not, just like you said, is they're not actually asking them to be, right? Mm-hmm. So like when I go through the process of teaching people how to organize their life, their business, their time, one of the things that is most important is organizing their conversations, right? Like, you can't go through this process without having your family on board, right? Like, when I was going through this process, I literally had to say to my kid, to my spouse, here's what I want to create. This is what I want to do. This is why I want to do it for us, right? Like, really letting them know, like, if I do X, Y, Z, then eventually I'm going to be able to create X, Y, Z, which is where we want to be, right? And by the way, knowing what you really want is really important, because if you don't, you're going to fail 100% of the time. But so over here, right? You have to help them understand that vision, right? Where I can talk to my husband, I can talk to my kid, and I can say, hey, this is what I want to create. So here's what I need from you, spouse, right? I might need a little bit extra time at night to be able to work my business. Would you be willing to do bedtime, right? I might need a little bit of extra time during the day. Would you be willing to be the one to handle the laundry, right? Like just asking for their support and asking for their help and saying, if you're willing to do that for me, I'm going to get really super aware and super intentional with my time. And here's what I'm going to set aside every day for us to have that time together, for us to have that family time together, and doing the same thing with your kids. And I find too, with your kids, like one of the easiest ways to do that is like attach it to them getting something, right? Like if you let me have this time right here, I will take you to the pool every afternoon. If you let me have this time right here and we create XYZ, we'll go to Disney World or whatever, like attaching something for them to understand, okay, mommy's working, this is what she's working for, so we can have XYZ. So the conversations are really, really important, and don't be scared to have them. Now, you might not get the answer that you want, but you never know unless you ask. I always say no asking, no getting, right?
Yeah. The answer is always no if you don't ask in the first place.
Amen.
But a lot of times when you ask, the answer is yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I still have to get on my husband to not forget to do the laundry. But he does it.
Right. So it's not foolproof. It's not perfect.
No.
But it all starts with having that conversation.
Yep.
And it sounds like you make sure there's an exchange of value.
Absolutely.
Right?
100%. Because, I don't know about you, but I don't just want my business to be successful. I want my marriage to be just as successful. I want my family life to be just as successful. I want my health to be just as successful. I want my relationship with the Lord to be just as successful, right? Once again, going back to the things that matter to me most. If the things that I'm doing every day are not growing me in those areas, I'm going to feel unfulfilled. And if I feel unfulfilled, I'm dealing with burnout, anxiety, depression, right? Like if you're feeling these kinds of feelings, you really want to look at, are you currently fulfilled in the things that matter to you most?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I know when you're in that place, adding one more thing to your plate can feel like 100 things. But also, if the thing you add to your plate is something that actually gives you energy or something that fulfills you, it can feel like someone took 100 things off your plate.
Yep. The multitasking is what is draining the energy. That's what's draining people's energy. That's why they don't feel fulfilled, because if you're not able to give 100% focus to your spouse or to your family or to your business in the time that you've set aside for it, you're always going to feel frustrated. You're always going to feel unorganized. You're always going to feel like you're 10 steps behind. You're never going to feel fulfilled. So it's just so stinking important to make sure that you're so intentional and giving 100% attention to whatever it is that you're doing at that moment. I do the same thing with my self-care, right? Like my team, my virtual assistants, like everybody that works with me, and my family, they know if it's 5:00, I'm in the bathtub. That's where I'm at. I'm having my self-care time. Don't walk in on me unless you want to see a whole lot of, I don't know, right? I'm hanging out in the bathtub. That's my time. I will be scrolling on Pinterest. I'll read a book, like whatever it is that makes me feel good. I'm in that self-care time.
Mm-hmm. So important. So not only are you setting aside time for your business, you're setting aside time for yourself to fill your soul, right? I know you said your morning time is important too. And then you're setting aside time for family. And when you're actually focused in each of those moments, they all tend to respect the other moments.
Yep.
Because their cup is getting filled by having time with you.
Absolutely. Eye contact.
Yeah.
Like how many of you are not having actual, like literally, if you think about it, once again, we get aware, right? How many of you are actually having eye contact with anybody in your life? This thing has taken over everybody's lives, right? Like I talked to my husband, he's like, should we do a billboard for the restaurant? I'm like, no, people don't look up anymore. They look down, right? Like you go to a restaurant and you look at families and you look at people, even on dates, or you look at friends, and this is what you see. They're not even talking to each other, right? Yeah. So you have to learn how to this has its place, but you have to learn how to put it down and have eye contact, because that's where that quality time is going to happen. And when you feel like it just raises your energy, it raises your vibration. And when your energy is raised and your vibration is raised and you feel more joyful and you feel more peaceful and you feel more happy, guess what happens when you work your business? You start attracting people like that. And I don't know about you, but those are the kind of people I like to work with.
Yes, absolutely. I'm so feeling that. And I'm certain at this point, the audience is realizing they need a little bit more of this in their life. So if they want to go deeper and they're actually ready to tackle this, I know you have a free gift that could help them to do that. Do you want to tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah. So obviously we've talked about me being within the network marketing industry, and I have created my badass is my brand, by the way. I've created my badass consistency and intentionality tracker. So I know a lot of people within our industry, they have trackers for your daily method of operations, right? The things that are going to produce income, right? We call them income producing activities. Well, I took it a step further. Not only did I take this tracker and teach you exactly how to build your business in just 1 hour a day in 15-minute segments, right? I teach you to use a timer, right? I give you exact things that you need to do. But this tracker is not just for your business. I made a tracker for your life as well. I made sure to put on that tracker intentional time with your kids, intentional time with your spouse, because I know that there's a lot of people out there that like to check the box. I don't know about you. I like to check a box. It makes me feel good about myself, right? And so I think that what this tracker will really do is it will help you build awareness as to making sure that you're not just focused on your business, that you are focused on the other things as well. And it may sound counterproductive to spend less time working your business and more time actually focusing on your life as a whole. But what happens as you learn how to be intentional in all the different areas, your business will explode. Literally from this process, I went from earning 6 figures a year in 1 year to earning 7 figures in a year and working half the hours that I was working before, because I got super, super intentional. So that tracker is available for you guys. I hope you find it valuable. I hope you use it. And I would love, love, love to hear your story and to just hear, how much it helps you when you really get focused in those different areas.
Oh, I love that. What an amazing gift that covers all the bases, not just the business part, because really, honestly, it sounds like that's what it's all about, is that balance, that intentionality, that focus across all aspects of life. And then they all thrive at once.
Yeah. Because at the end of the day, like, what's success and what's money if you're unhappy, if you don't feel good and peaceful and joyful in your life? I don't know about you, but success to me is peace. It's joy. It's happiness with my life as a whole.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. Well, what an amazing gift and what an amazing topic that truly everybody needs. So we're so thankful to have had this time with you, and we look forward to the live Q&A in the Facebook group. So be sure to join us there, everyone. And until then, we'll see you in the next interview.
Bye, guys.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Impactful Entrepreneur Show. If you found amazing value here, like, subscribe, and leave us a review to help other people find the high value content that we share, and find us on social media so we can continue the conversation. See you in the next episode.